Hello, ladies and gentlemen, back to that Dustin Ellen like. Welcome back to MediEvil Resurrection, and well, in the last part we dealt with the glass-stained demon in the hilltop mausoleum. Now we deal with returning to the graveyard. Now, to some degree, I can understand the issue with the game if they did this, but at the same time, it's a little bit like disappointing to some degree. Real quick to explain, this game is more linear than the original, somewhat, because unlike the original, you can actually go back to certain areas and unlock certain things that you didn't have beforehand. But in this reimagining, instead of, like, excuse me, instead of, going back to a previous level and unlocking certain things, like, oh hey, I could just go back to the graveyard if I wanted to, after I defeat the glass-stained demon because I have the key now. Instead, they have another level that reuses the same level, but, expands on it, / cutting off certain parts that weren't in the other level, to make it look like as if it's, like, more than it should. Like, if you just go by the levels, it seems like as if it's, like, an open-ish world. And you know what, maybe they could have done that, but I understand it's, like, constraint for time, and it's tried to make it look like as if they're all connected. But still, it feels a little bit...
Return to the graveyard. We went there earlier. If you have reasonable short-term memory, you might remember it.
Keep an eye on that narrator's voice, because he's coming back here in, like, literally as another character. You'll see. But yeah. See? We're back here in the graveyard, but it's a different level, because...
Out of this graveyard. The glass demon's key might help.
Yeah, I know. You see, there's a coffin? Yeah, a coffin floating downstream because it didn't do that last time. So, hey, it's different. Look, I'm not saying, like, the whole idea isn't, like, sound, but, like, if you're gonna do this, maybe you could make new levels instead of reusing the old ones. Like, hey, if we have to return to the graveyard, can't we do a different level entirely, like, that's a little bit different than going back to this one? It feels like as if, well, why don't just leave, like, the aspect of going back to another level in this remake? Like, why not just make it so literally, you could literally come back to it later. Like, you can actually go back to the graveyard in the map and just do that. But, whatever. Like, again, I understand there's, like, constrictions and different stuff that makes it so, like, oh, it's different enough to make you think, oh yeah, everything's changed, it's different, it's more connected world than you think. But at the same time, it's like, it's not as brilliant as you think, but it feels... I'm not sure whether or not it is lazy since it's reusing assets, but it's not completely lazy. Like, again, I'm trying to think of this, like, as if it's on a deadline sort of thing. Like, literally, the people who made this were on a semi-deadline sort of thing. So, to some degree, I can understand that, oh yeah, it makes sense that the people who did this were slightly on a constrained budget sort of thing / time sequence. So, doing the whole, oh yeah, we're reusing levels themselves but changing them up slightly makes sense, at least. So, I'm more understanding in that aspect. It just feels like as if, it would have been cooler if, the levels were more open. Like, if I was able to actually go back to the previous graveyard and actually, go to this place and just, do the thing I wanted to do. Like, actually get the key and actually do the thing. At least I feel that's the case. I don't know. Maybe some people are okay with this type of level structure and don't mind it as much. I don't fully 100% mind it either. It's a little bit of a different sort of taste, honestly. And I know certain people actually enjoyed the openness of the original game because you can actually go back to some of those old levels and actually, change up what you did in those levels and actually, return to them with previous items and do stuff. So it makes it actually feel more open than it is. But as you can see, I can't enter this old graveyard part, and I can't access it in any way. So, I'm just, you know, in a new level, technically speaking. Again, I'm not 100% against it, and I understand maybe there's constraints to it. So, again, like, if you have issues with it, I guess that's a fair comparison or fair complaint. Me, I'm over it, so I'm not 100% against it. Yeah, I already knew about the whole thing. I mean, you can already see it, so it's not 100% like...
This path leads to undertakers. An old acquaintance of yours, eh, Dan?
Well, I mean, he's an old acquaintance that we didn't meet. Also, by the way, supposedly I heard coffins are a big waste of money, or at least somewhat like a big scam. Like, oh yeah, let me sell you an object that you're not going to use until you're dead, literally, and your family gets foot with the bill. It's like, I understand coffins are technically needed if you want to preserve yourself, so I'm not saying they're bad, it's just like something I heard once. Particularly, I don't know how to feel about coffins. I think, like, it's fine and all that. The way I want to be buried is kind of a weird thing. And I know, like, you know, talking about death and all that brings down stuff. But, you know, maybe we can just talk lightheartedly about it. So the way I want to be buried is technically, I just want, myself to either be cremated or have my remains just buried underground without too much stuff. And a tree or something to be planted over me. Something that lasts long enough to where it's like, oh, it's planted there, and it grows without me, like, being there fully. At least then, like, at least I leave something, and people will say, huh, I wonder what's there, because at some point, like, I'm pretty sure, like, the gravestone might be gone, maybe, or maybe not, and they could see a tree and be like, wonder if there's anything under it, or maybe just, oh, look, a nice tree, and they could see something. I don't know, I feel as if, like, I want that type of objectivism of, like, oh. Jesus. I was hoping that whole, you know, falling thing would have been more destructive than before, but I guess it wasn't. By the way, yes, I can see it at the corner of my screen or the corner of my eye. I see the numbers. Okay, maybe one reference to it. Hopefully I did do a reference to it, you know, the whole thing, so... Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, buried. So I want that type of contrast of when one life ends, another begins. So that way there's something like, you know, something growing to show that there's life. But I don't know. I don't know whether or not, like, my family would be okay with that type of idea, or if anyone else would be okay with it. It's like, would that be more money to do it? It sounds like as if it would be more money, so that's kind of an issue. So at least there's this.
How can I help you, my musty foot?
Yeah, let me remove that numbers at the side. I'm not mentioning it because I'm afraid of it or anything. I just don't want to, like, mention it because, like, it's kind of an easy little point to bring up. At least to me it does. Okay, well that was pointless. Well, actually no, actually the shield took damage. So not 100% pointless. Aha! I got healed, so I didn't need to buy that ladder. And yes, you needed to go up here because you needed the earth room. Anyway, keep an eye on this door because I keep on forgetting to go to it once everything's done. Do I need anything else? Nah, I'm fine for now. I might use the longsword or the hammer for the next part. Depends. And look at this guy. He's a hooded figure with a scythe. I wonder who could he be. I will say, the one thing I like about this death design is that he has a weird necklace noose, which either could be a tie or just there for decorations. Makes sense, it's kind of cool.
Taking a breather? No, I don't think so.
Would you shut up, Al? And sorry if you're hearing crunching sounds. I made popcorn and I'm really trying to resist eating it. But it's like, it's right there, man. Well, I'll cut out, like, the sound of it at this point.
Greetings, stranger. I'm Death. It is I who ease the passage of lost souls on their final journey. The hours are hell, but I wanted a job working with people. But hold. Have we not met before? Sir Daniel Fortescue! I've done you once already. I never forget a corpse. It's that pesky Zarok. I'm up to my eye sockets in the ex-deceased. Business hasn't been this brisk since the great massacre of Mellowmead. I may have to take on an intern. Help you fight Zarok? Of course. If only to get some rest. I'd be off on holiday topping up my tan if it wasn't for that evil old madman. But there is a way to stop him. You'll need the Anubis stone. It was used by Zarok 100 years ago to create an undead army. The very army that you fought on the day of your, arrow-based mishap. After that most bloody of battles, the Galamir people acquired the stone. To prevent its power being used again for evil, they broke it into 4 and gave each piece to a trusted member of the realm. You'll need to find all 4 pieces to use the stone's power. Then you can summon up an army that can compete with Zarok's elite guard, the terrifying Phasguls. They sound like a trapeze act, but trust me, they're a lot less fun. Well, I've seen and heard many things on my deathly duties. I could write a book, you know. Of course, no publisher would touch it. All I want these days is romantic fiction and epic poems. Anyway, one piece was buried with the great Moloch chief. His tomb is in this very cemetery. The mayor of Sleeping Village inherited a piece from his predecessor and knows its current whereabouts. There's a rumor that the Witch of Pumpkin Gorge has a piece in her possession, although she may have put that about herself to drum up some tourist fortune-telling trade. Ah, yes, and the 4th and final piece is in possession of the deceased King of Galamir. Assuming he is still deceased. You never know these days, do you? I mean, look at you. But if he is, it'll be locked in his castle vault. Okay? You're very welcome. Now go and stop Zarok before he drives me to an early grave.
Really wish you could help more, but you know what? This information's pretty useful. Thank you. Like, seriously, thank you very much. The Anubis Stone. Kind of an odd addition, but it makes some sense. Or at least later on it makes more sense. At least with its addition. So at least there's that. For some reason you can't hit switches with everything. It needs a low striking thing. Or a low striking weapon, so there's that. But thank you for your time, Death. I will say, this Death is a lot more friendlier than some other versions of Death I've seen. So at least there's that. It's friendly. Haha! Some of the combos help
By the
sometimes.
sandals of the wandering hippie, their famous Moloch Chief's Memorial.
Not 100% of the time, but they help good enough. Also, dropping enemies into the abyss below usually gets you an instant win, or at least kills them instantly. But, you know, they're also not as buoyant as you. Ugh, I hate when they do that. The whole popping out after you're done with an area sort of thing. It can be rather dreadfully annoying. At least they can go down in one swing with these swords. I know, I know. Take that! Hold up. I need the spade for this area. But first, or I need the thing that's up top. Up there on the top of that spiral mountain sort of thing. Yeah. Anyway, up top there is the actual grave site of that person they were talking about. You know, the one with the first piece of the Anubis stone that I can get. Anything else? I'm trying to get rid of all these guys because some of these guys can be annoying. Yeah, just like that. Jesus. I really don't like the archers in this game. Don't get me wrong, they aren't the most annoying enemy ever, but still, they can be slightly more annoying than you think. Okay, whew. I thought for a second I wouldn't make it. Anyway, let's see. Let's get up top to this spiral mountain. Okay, for those of you curious as to why I'm laughing, or giving a heh, it's because, like, I'm thinking, like, oh, I'm thinking of, like, the spiral mountain from Banjo-Kazooie. And it's like, oh, it's kind of funny that I'm mentioning that. It's like, oh yeah, it's Spiral Mountain, but, you know, Death Mountain, basically. Well, not the actual Death Mountain, but you get the point. Jesus, these mummies are tough. At least with swords, they're tough to kill. Anyway, let's dig up this grave and get the Anubis stone piece. The first piece, at least. Here we go.
A piece of the Anubis stone. Its power and worth is unimaginable. I know a bar where you can get cash for it.
Thanks, pal. Selling it would definitely be beneficial to us. But anyway, yeah, the Anubis stone piece. To be fair, the Anubis stone technically has more of a purpose than something else that happens later on. I'll explain when we get to it, because it's going to be a while before we get to it. There we go. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to use it. Either you use it or lose it. Move it or lose it. I think that's the phrase, right? I'm trying to think, like, what that phrase is. But anyway, real quick, I want to use up this health pool. Hold up. Is it oh, okay, no, it still has a little bit left. Real quick to explain. In this game, the health is a slightly bit stingier, slightly, sort of. Well, you know, stingier in the open world. It's like some levels further down won't have that many health files, or will have the, you know, certain parts of health pools in different areas further back. And sometimes you can find, like, you know, those health regen pools in certain other places later in certain levels. But the thing is, those things don't really last as long as they should, or at least I don't think so. I mean, I don't know whether or not they actually do. Like, they actually do last as long as they do in the original games. But they certainly don't last as long. At least I don't think they last as long as the original games. I think they do. I think they last just as long as the originals. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I could be wrong in that assessment. All I do know is that these, since they go by so quick, it feels like as if they don't regen as much as they should. Or as much as you think they would. So, yeah, you know, when you do heal up, it doesn't heal as much as you think, and then you're kind of like, oh, why didn't it heal me as much? And it's like, no, I'm gonna have to buy my health. And, you know, then that's it. Now, I know I shouldn't be going to health pools and other stuff to top off. But considering some of these games where it's like, oh, they show up the bosses here, then, you know, it sort of makes sense to me, at least. And, yeah, we're in a small boss fight. Well, sort of. First, we get off a small mini-boss. Sort of. Well, it's just a team of wolves, really. Okay, Jesus. I was hoping not to take as much damage as I did, but whatever. Now, here's the real boss fight. I have no idea whether or not you can consider that a mini-boss at all, honestly. It's a little bit weird. And these are stone wolves that become ethereal. Or transparent. Come on. Take that! Now that's basically what you're supposed to do, but unfortunately I'm dumb. And not really that well versed in jumping. And this is kind of where the controls slightly kind of, you know, fail you a bit, because it's like I can't jump too much to the right or keep my thumb too much on the left stick, otherwise, you know, otherwise that happens. But I need to focus on the dogs because it's like I need to hit them, but at the same time, if I push too much to the side, it's like kind of hard to keep track of them / move without getting hit. Okay, at least I take care of one of them. You know full well I need him to hit you. There we go. Jesus. If you have the right weapon, you can deal with these things pretty easily. Yeah, I know how you feel, Dan.
Excellent work, my brother. Let me ruffle your hair. Oh, never mind. But we have escaped. Galomir Plains lies beyond that gate.
Thanks for just lounging about there, genie. I understand you're trapped in my skull and you may not be providing as much help as you think you are. But at the same time, you could at least try. I don't know. From what I can tell, this genie doesn't do much until the very end of the game. And I know he does like one significant, well, not one significant thing, one small thing, but it's not much, honestly, in comparison to, you know, everything else Dan has to do. But I understand, Dan is the hero of this story. Well, a redeeming hero of this story. So it makes sense why, you know, the genie's not supposed to help too much. Although I will say, it would have been cool to have certain magical ability that the genie can do that you can perform. Like, oh hey, why not have Dan, like what do you call it, being able to shoot certain fireballs from his eyes as the genie and have a magic meter or something. That'd be pretty cool. But I understand, it's like, most of your weapons should come from the Hall of Heroes and not from the genie, but whatever. But oh yeah, like I said before, the health the health pools really don't last very long, at least when it comes to filling some stuff. I mean, I remember a certain person playing MediEvil, the first game, and they actually had, like, you know, their health, you know, a good amount of small health bottles, and I think the health pools filled up 2 of those at best, maybe 1. I don't know, it felt longer in the other game.
Welcome to the Hall of Heroes. Enjoy your visit. Patrons are reminded to leave quietly. We've had complaints from the neighbors.
Anytime you enter the Hall of Heroes, that's basically what it is. It does a pre-recorded, what do you call it? Entrance thing. It usually changes depending on who it is. Okay. Just double checking. Because, that's something that the original did. Anytime, there wasn't an excess amount of, chalices that this game doesn't have. So anytime you come back to the Hall of Heroes, sometimes certain heroes actually give you either slightly an upgraded weapon or just give you gold or a health bottle or something, just because it's like, oh, well, we needed some newer prize, so why not a large amount of gold? And it's like, it's useful, you know, for replenishing ammo, but at the same time it's like, I kind of wanted a new weapon when I get back here. So it's not bad that you get like, what do you call it, some gold to help buy for ammunition for your weapon, but still. Anyway, this is a centaur dude. Ooh. I'm a little bit creeped out by him slightly, but it's not too bad. But let's talk to him, shall we? Get a new weapon.
At you look, running around in your bones, Fortescue. You are just so newborn dead. Huh? I, Raven Hooves, last of the Centaur princes, have not the earth in 1,000 years gallop. But last time out, I won on the flat by 7 lengths. Carrying 9 stone 11. Crazy. Yourself a favor do, Fortescue. Take my long bow. It is the weapon of noblemen. My breeding you don't quite have, Mr. Johnny Die Lately. But you do your best, I sure. Ciao, Bell.
Indeed. So, say hello to another, like, literally long-range option. The longbow. Which just basically does that. It's a longer version of the crossbow? I don't know. It's just a simple arrow shooter, which is fine. More projectiles isn't a bad thing, honestly. Although I will say, holding it down doesn't really have, like, one of those special single attacks. So it's like the crossbow in that respect. But it does have a power shot and a charge shot. Well, it has a charge shot and a triple shot. If you press down on the strong attack, it fires 3, you know, continuous bolts. I think that's just like, you know, spread shot. I don't know. And it fires if you charge up, you know, the same strong attack, it fires a single strong arrow. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, this bow is pretty nice and all that. It looks pretty cool. I'll get to the upgrades of this bow when we get to it, because that's something this game does technically a little bit better, but I'll get to that when we get to that. For now, though, I'm just going to end off here for now, like always. Anyway, I'll see you all next time for the next video of MediEvil. I'll see you all until then. Until then, sayonara, bots. Take care.